Hi, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Diana Garrett, and I'm part of the Rose Park leadership team. Excuse my voice, I have a cold that I'm suffering through, but I'm not contagious. Thank you for being here tonight on our special meeting discussing the Russell Street project options. Before we start out, I'd like to point out some of our leadership team members that are here: Nancy McCourt, Judy Smith, and we have some other leadership team members who couldn't be here. We have Lynette Diaz, who's the neighborhood council, and we've got Joe. Would you like to introduce yourself too?
Joe Ford.
Yeah.
I live at 300 Mount.
Thank you for being here. And I'd like to have, we have some government officials who are here, city and county, if they'd like to stand up, and those who are running for office. So who's in our room?
Hi, I'm Linda Fry. I've met a bunch of you walking in the neighborhood, and I'm running for House District 94. It's a pleasure to be here.
Stacy Ryan, City Council, Ward 3, non-government official.
And then Lynette Diaz, who I think I pointed out earlier, who is with the neighborhood councils. And we'd like to give a special thanks to Great Harvest, who is right in our neighborhood, who kindly donated the snacks that we have tonight, so please help yourself, because we have a lot of snacks. I'd like to announce that MCAT is here and is filming tonight's meeting. And I'd like to open up just a few minutes for public comment for issues not on the agenda. Is there any issues not on the agenda that anybody would like to address?
I just have something brief related to the article in the paper the other day about the moth, the coddling moth control project. And I just want to encourage everyone who has apple trees to please get your apple trees on the register for that. And you can do that by calling the extension service. And they would really like to have lots and lots of trees on their register so the project can carry out in an effective way. They need a certain number of trees within each geographic area.
Are they going to treat the trees or something?
Yes, you sign up, and I believe it's $5 if I remember the article correctly, to have the pheromone materials, whatever, on your apple trees. It's an alternative to spraying your trees. And the number is 258-4213.
Great, and for those of you, since the microphone's right here, thank you for MCAT. It was just brought up about the coddling moth problem with the apple trees and to have your trees sprayed.
Not sprayed.
Not sprayed, but a non-toxic.
Yes.
Okay, pheromone.
Pheromone.
Therapy.
Yes, thank you.
To call the extension service at 258-4213, is that the right number? Okay, thank you for that. Any other issues other issues that are not on the agenda that you would like to be brought up at a later date, please, go ahead.
I was just going to, in light of what she was saying, also the UM Foundation is looking for donations and volunteers to help reseed Sentinel. Any donations, $15 buys a pound of seed. If you can help that. I didn't bring the information with me, but just so people are aware of it. I saw it on the news and I received flyers on it, and just make sure that people know that they can help. And the key is to reseed before the non-natives start, to let them establish this fall.
Contact Marilyn Marler,
Yeah.
University.
Yeah.
Marilyn Marler.
Marilyn Marler, council representative and university employees.
Okay.
Taking all donations for
Taking all donations for those
the burn site.
MCAT listeners at the foundation for the burn site. So, and other issues that weren't brought up that you think about that you're interested in, please let your leadership team know. And we will make sure they're addressed at the next general meeting. So thank you for those issues. And with that said, we have a jam-packed meeting, so I'm not going to take any more time than that. And we're going to keep to a pretty close schedule to what you see laid out on the tables. So thanks again for being here. We have the moderator. Our moderator will be Judy Smith, who will come up. And if you can come up and speak up here, the microphone's here for the MCAT station. Thank you.
So if you would just look at the agenda that we left around on all the tables, you'll see that we are definitely setting up times for people to talk about different aspects of the Russell Street options. And Nancy is going to be timing folks, so as we get closer to the moment when we're going to call time, she will.
I'll say you have a minute, or if you want more time, warning, if you want to know when you have 5 minutes left, let me know what you want. Okay.
So as you see, we'll start with some history. We have had someone from the Neighborhood Council involved for a bunch of years in the whole citizen advisory for Russell. So we'll have some history on that from our Transportation Committee. We'll then have a current status update also from the Transportation Committee. Then we have some folks from Public Works here that will give basically a perspective from the work that they've been doing. Then we have some folks from the Citizens for 3+ for Russell giving their perspective. And then the last half hour is really a conversation for our Neighborhood Council to see what are next steps for our council and also for individuals. And there will be a proposal on the table to have a resolution for our Neighborhood Council vis-a-vis the Russell project. So with that in mind, our transportation team brought this issue to us as the Neighborhood Council. So we're having this special meeting in response to their interest. And I'm going to turn it over to them now. And I believe, Linda, you're going to be the first person.
You know, I feel kind of weird with my back to everybody. This seems kind of...
You asked to be in the middle, Linda.
Oh, only because I didn't think I could project very well, but now I don't...
Just turn at your place.
You can go back. Or we can just
Yeah,
move
back up.
it right here.
Sorry, I didn't realize what I was asking for. Anyway, as Judy said, the Transportation Committee asked to have this special meeting given the timing of the official draft environmental information, impact statement. The draft environmental impact statement official public hearing is next Wednesday, September 24th at Franklin School at 6 o'clock. So we thought it was really important for our Neighborhood Council to be informed as best we could inform you about our experiences so far with this project, and so you would have whatever you might need. You can ask questions in the process tonight to go to that hearing next Wednesday. However, if you can't go to the hearing, we also have some postcards in back so you could make comments. So we wanted everybody to participate if they want to. Anyway, my name is Linda Smith, and I was a member of the Rose Park Neighborhood, I am a member of the Rose Park Neighborhood Council, and was a member of the advisory committee that was established at the beginning of the project to rebuild Russell and South 3rd. Each neighborhood council around Russell was asked to send a representative, and I ask myself now, I volunteered to do this, and this was in November of 2000. And the reason I volunteered is because no one else would volunteer, and I didn't know a lot about transportation issues, and I thought, well, that I wasn't the best qualified person to be on this committee, but I realized in the process of being on the committee that I got educated into it, so now I really care about it, and I think it really matters to the quality of life in our community and our neighborhoods and everything else. So anyway, I appreciated the public being asked to participate in a transportation planning process from the beginning in what seemed to be a more meaningful role than attending open houses and public hearings. Previously, I had spent many years working with the Slant Street Neighborhood Association to narrow Stevens Avenue, a street so wide that motorists were routinely driving over 40 miles an hour, miles per hour. Pedestrians were afraid to cross the street because cars were running the yellow lights, and Stevens was finally retrofitted with a 16-foot median and landscaping And it is a safer street now, but the speed limit is 45 miles per hour, and you don't see many people riding bikes or walking along it. The advisory committee for Russell and South Third was very broadly representative of the community at large. There were corridor residents who lived along Russell, there were local businesses, there were low-income housing interests, there was the Missoula Chamber of Commerce, there were bike-ped trail groups, neighborhood councils, and city staff. And it was kicked off by a partnering workshop. And this is the booklet we were given. It's dated November 8th, 9th, 2000. And it's full of, ideas, suggestions about, the roles and responsibilities of the advisory committee and the interdisciplinary team and all this stuff. But it also has this partnering charter in the back. And it talks about, the city, the Montana Department of Transportation, Federal Highway Administration, neighborhood councils, and all those others I mentioned. And the consultant then was Skillings Connolly. And then there's a mission statement here. And, it talks about our common mission to prepare a project recommendation, blah, blah, blah. But it's in success factors of maintaining a fair and inclusive process that everyone can trust, general public confidence, create a sense of ownership by the community support for the preferred alternative. There's a lot of things they thought were important success factors. 5? Okay. Oh, I better speed up. Okay. Anyway, so we met for many months and got educated into transportation planning concepts and developed a purpose and need statement. That's the document, as we understood it, that directed the selection of the preferred alternative, and it had 6 sentences in it. 5 dealt with all the things of safety and efficiency for cars, bikes, pedestrians, air, water quality, capacity of the bridge, and access for residents and businesses. But the 6th sentence, which was unique to this purpose and need statement, read, develop a transportation facility that maintains or enhances a sense of the residential and commercial neighborhoods within the corridor. And then in May 2001, the advisory committee was beginning to compare the possible alternatives. The business interests seemed to be generally supporting more lanes and the neighborhoods supporting fewer lanes, and the possibility of combining different parts of different alternatives to create a blended alternative was emerging. And I remember asking the consultant then if a blended alternative was a possibility and being told yes. And the May 10th, 2001 meeting agenda included scheduling additional meetings of the advisory committee, and then the committee was abruptly disbanded. And not long after that, the selection by the city of its preferred alternative for Russell was the 5-lane. So anyway, I have to skip some of this because there's just a lot of questions about the public process used here to arrive at the city's preferred alternative. For a federally funded road project, how credible is the public participation process when the the advisory committee was created, but really not allowed to participate throughout the process of selecting the preferred alternative? I mean, this has been going on, we were disbanded in like 2001, and now, it's 2008. And, it's like we really weren't able to participate fully in that process. There were a few open houses, update meetings, and public hearings don't really include the public in a meaningful public process equivalent to the way the advisory committee was set up. And then I have a few words from Kay Whitlock, who is a member of the Emma Dickinson Orchard Homes Neighborhood Council, and she had testified before the advisory council. And she, they were particularly concerned about these issues. We did not want Russell Street reconstruction to result in another transportation corridor similar to Reserve. We wanted rebuilding of both streets to enhance, and this is Russell and Third, to enhance the aspects of our neighborhood that we most cherished, while increasing the ability of motorists, bicycle riders, and pedestrians to navigate the area safely and easily. we were extremely concerned about how reconstruction might affect existing homeowners, renters, and businesses. How many homes, rental units, and/or businesses might be displaced by reconstruction? How would compensation be determined? We were concerned not only by numbers of those who might be displaced, but also by the degree of compensation anyone displaced would receive. We generally preferred rebuilding options that had fewer lanes. Recognize that certain stakeholders representing businesses preferred more lanes. We wanted to support the idea of some kind of combination alternative to create a win-win situation that accommodated the major concerns of both neighborhood residents and businesses, and did not. And she specifically raised these issues. We hope that these processes would not displace existing residents or businesses. If they did, we asked how people would be notified, what legal options they had, and what help was available to them to legally notify or legally navigate these processes.
You need to wrap up.
Okay, and then what kind of compensation would be offered? We did not feel that fair market value alone would be sufficient to help a family or business relocate to a property that was at least as good as the one they were being forced to vacate. And she said she received no clear responses to any of these issues. So that's the history. So now we're going to go into the update, and Marta and Joe are going to do this, and I'll chime in a little bit later. Oh, I'm sorry, I meant to introduce the Transportation Committee. So here's Marta, all three of us. Yeah. Tell me your last name again, please. Yeah. Marta Mengs and Joe Ford and
Yes, thank you, Lynn. Lynn has a lot of very important history of what she's been through with this whole process, and it's very valuable to hear what she has to say. And I'm just talking as a member of the Rose Park Transportation Committee. The Rose Park Transportation Committee has been concerned when we reviewed the plan for Russell and Third about which plan was chosen. A lot of the Citizens Advisory Committee's input from the past seemed to have been ignored. In reviewing the plan proposed by the Federal Highway Administration, Montana Department of Transportation, HKM Engineers, and the City of Missoula Public Works, and maybe some others there, we discovered that the plan calls for 4 to 5 lanes of motorized traffic for the entire length of Russell, or at least to Mount. To accommodate these lanes with all the turn lanes, there would be a very large intersection at Russell and Third, similar to the one at Mullen and Reserve Street. The Rose Park Transportation Committee met with other concerned groups to learn more about the impact such a widened road would have on this neighborhood. What we learned were the following facts. Number 1, 10 businesses and 11 houses would be removed to accommodate this road. And this is a conservative number. This would have quite a personal impact on the owners of these businesses and homes, and also the houses next to them. Number 2, 4 to 5 lanes would divide the neighborhood from 3rd to 14th Street, create a road with the width and traffic volume of Reserve Street, bring faster traffic, and increase noise to the neighborhood. Number 3, the ability to speed through this neighborhood with the construction of 4 to 5 motorized travel lanes would create what is called induced traffic. This is something I just learned, but I've always noticed it. We learned that induced traffic is the increased attraction of vehicles to a road because it is perceived as a fast thoroughfare. Number 4, 2 travel lanes going in the same direction, or total of 4 travel lanes, greatly increases the chance of pedestrian-cyclist injury when crossing the road. Even when a boulevard in the middle of the road, the second lane of traffic going the same way must still be crossed, and often, even though the car in the first lane stops, the car in the second lane does not and keeps driving, increasing the danger of hitting the pedestrian or cyclist. We have learned this about making Broadway 3 lanes. We have not had any deaths since we have done that. Fact number 5, we learned that traffic projections are based on outdated perspectives, not taking into account increased gas prices, the decreased driving time of drivers, the increased use of mass transit, and increased non-motorized travel choices being made today by the citizens. Number 6, we learned that a signalized intersection, as compared to roundabouts, creates way more pedestrian cyclist injury as there are many more points of conflicts in a signalized intersection. And number 7, we have known that more people bike and walk if they feel safer and more comfortable on the roads they travel and cross. Finally, we know that the citizens had proposed a plan that includes all the much-needed improvements for Russell. This plan included a better bridge over the Clark Fork, bike lanes, and sidewalks. We have been told that if the EIS plan is not adopted, then Missoula will receive no more federal funding. This is believed by the backers of this plan, as they state that if we do not adopt the 4 to 5 lanes all the way through to 14th, then we will have no improvements approved for Russell. We learned from other well-informed transportation advocates, I'll use his name, Alex Taff, he was at a last meeting we had at Franklin to Fort, that this statement is simply not true, and that there are specific situations throughout the country where the federal funding was provided for an alternative plan for a road project, if enough pressure is placed from the citizens on the decision makers, local and state politicians. In other words, a blended alternative for this project is possible. The Rose Park Transportation Committee, after listening to all the facts, is asking the citizens of Rose Park to consider the impact the 4 to 5 lanes through the Russell Street neighborhood would have on the quality and safety of that neighborhood. And each of you decide if you could adopt a resolution as a neighborhood group to support a more neighborhood-friendly, human-scale plan for Russell Street. Thanks.
I just have a brief synopsis of traveling this corridor. It shouldn't be a corridor. I don't know how many of you actually travel through there during the day. I have a client out there. I live over on the mountain. I go back and forth at random times during the day, so I decided to do my own little study of how long it takes to get through there, which I did at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, 9 o'clock in the morning, 7:30, various times. My baseline travel through there I did one night when all the lights are flashing yellow on Russell, so you can just cruise right through at the speed limit, which I found takes 3 minutes to get from Mount Avenue to the river, the bridge going over the river at Broadway. Then I timed it going at various other times during the day. The average time going through there during middle of the day or whenever traffic's just normal traffic is about 5 minutes. The worst traffic in there around 5:30 in the afternoon takes 7 minutes to get through there. So the difference in time to get through that stretch of road is only 4 minutes from just cruising straight through with no traffic to having the heaviest traffic that you're going to see, which to me is as a community, do we really need to rush through that quick? I mean, that's obviously psychological stuff that we can't deal with for, transportation issues probably. But the real bottlenecks on this thing are not even the section I think everybody's concerned with is the residential section, and just wiping out a nice calming, traffic calming residential section where you see houses, you're close to people on the side and stuff, and turning that into a 150-foot wide or whatever it is corridor, which people don't even know that they're going through a neighborhood and just barrel through there. Well, that section anyway is a smooth flow, and there's no backups in that ever. Once you get into that section, you just cruise right through. Obviously, the bottlenecks probably make that happen when there's a bottleneck at 3rd. But if you look at the traffic, there's a lot of traffic splitting off going north or rather, west on Third and east on Third. So that intersection is definitely a big problem. But that section through the residential area is really, it doesn't need more than two lanes, one either way and a turn lane and proper bike and pedestrian path through there. But I mean, I encourage anybody to time themselves going through that whole section. It just is not a real bottleneck through that residential neighborhood. It's a smooth flow, and to widen it up is just going to, like Marta says, it's going to attract traffic, which may be the plan is to siphon off traffic from Reserve and Higgins and funnel it through there. And the other thing that I wonder about this too is when it's talked about growth, we're trying to accommodate the growth of the area, is that it seems to me that the South Hills is the only place that's going to grow at the south end of Russell, and that the real growth in Missoula is going to be out west of town, which doesn't lend itself to why we need another north-south corridor, and I mean a major corridor. If you look at the maps of this thing, it's really wiping out lots of things on either side of that stretch of road. So that's it. It's just, mine's just the basic little citizens survey of how long it takes to get through there, and it's really, it seems like more of a perceptual issue than an actual problem area of getting traffic through there. The intersections, the river with the bridge should help that, and 3rd Street intersection definitely needs something. The roundabout seems like a good idea. Even traffic signals and more lanes, whatever goes through there. But widening that section through the residential area just, it seems purposeless in terms of actually moving more traffic. That's what I have to say.
Just tell me when it's live.
Okay.
Can we just point out too, so people just don't touch the music stand. I guess it's interfering with reception from the microphone for MCAT, so just be aware of that.
Okay.
All future speakers.
I also wanted to mention that our city council reps, Stacy Rye and Bob Jaffe, proposed to the city council to get a peer review done of this Third and Russell DEIS, and like a second opinion, but it's going to be just of parts of the DEIS, the way I understand it now, and that on Monday, it was approved? That's correct?
Well, it's been approved at the city council level. The city council approved a peer review of parts of the draft EIS. It still has to be approved by the federal government to be funded for this project. And the Metropolitan Planning Organization, the body that does all the planning and programming for transportation in the Missoula urban transportation area, has to approve an amendment to the transportation improvement plan for this year as well. So it's made it through council. It has to go through a few more steps. And we're in the process now, there's a few of us, of determining what we would like to see reviewed from the EIS. One reason is because the council would like to comment as a whole on the EIS, and we'd like to speak intelligently to it. Peer reviews are not uncommon for an engineering EIS, for a draft EIS. And we have concerns about, for instance, the 4F properties that have been marked 4F, which necessitates the big road. We have concerns about other aspects of the plan that I don't know can be addressed simply by public comment, and then them coming back with the final, not the draft, but the final EIS. So we would like those two things in particular reviewed. What was another thing we wanted to do?
Some of the traffic studies and the traffic volumes.
The traffic projections, given that between June or May or November of last year and June of this year, there was something like 50 billion fewer miles driven, because it turns out that the price of gas has something to do with how much people are willing to drive. And so that, the traffic projections are one of those things. Other things probably can be addressed by public comment, but I'm not quite sure yet. For instance, there's no traffic transit pullouts in the corridor from 3rd to Mount. No transit pullouts for buses because there's no bus service now, so why would there be in 2025? The boulevard and sidewalk widths are something that I'm concerned about too. It's a very small boulevard, it's a very small sidewalk. For an arterial like that, you should have at least 10-foot boulevard and a 6-foot sidewalk. And what's planned, I think, is a 5 and a 7 or a 6 and a 7. So those are some of my concerns, but some of those can be addressed by public comment. Others will go into another group of engineers, hopefully will bid on an RFP to take certain parts of this huge document and look at it to see if the correct decision was formed.
Okay, thank you.
You're down to 2 minutes.
I'm down to 2 minutes, okay, well, I just wanted to encourage people to go look at the draft EIS that I went down to the library last Sunday and spent a couple hours looking through it. And I would encourage you to look at, like the purpose and need, the one I was telling you about, that we developed, the advisory committee to maintain and enhance the sense of the neighborhoods, both business and residential neighborhoods. The purpose and need is shortened now. I was going to read it to you. There's just 2 very basic sentences. They took out all the enhancing the neighborhood language, and they told us that they put it in the goal and objective, but that doesn't carry the same significance that, the purpose and need does. I also, I would encourage you to look at the section on noise, because we know with speeds, there's greater noise, and there's actually a statement in there that 13 more homes may need to be taken out, fully acquired. So I'm just trying to understand this in terms of it's 11 now, but does that mean it's going to be 13? That it's going to keep growing. As noise grows, then impacts grow and houses have to go out. So I also wanted to show you some pictures I took, just so you'd have a sense of the kinds of homes that, and this is a business here, this is Garden City Monument, and these are homes on Russell and Kern, and these are existing affordable housing, and we know the mayor has an initiative on affordable housing. We know the citizens have highly prioritized affordable housing, so we're going to take this out. And then if you look in the DEIS too, you'll notice that they also have 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, all the homes that are going to be affected by this huge road, not just the homes that are taken out. There are going to be huge impacts backing up every 5 feet. And I spoke with Diana Sorensen, who lives in this house right here at 915 Kern. She and her husband Wes have lived there for 32 years. They raised their kids there. Their quality of life is good, they said, even being so close to Russell. They get some traffic noise, it doesn't bother them. She said, we can live with a 3-lane. Anything more than that, we're really against it. They've put everything, there was nothing much there when they moved in, and now it's all been well landscaped and developed. And they have a lot of family memories, she said, and I'm sure that's true for a lot of people there. So, just give you some more sense of what's there. Oh, and this is a little park. This is a little park at 7th and Russell. This will go too. And you can read the park section of the DEIS. It says they're taking this out. There's a plaque in here. It's dedicated, maintained for someone named Thomas Neely. I don't know who that was, but. So, anyway, that's it.
So now we're going to ask Public Works. Steve, are you going to be the first person to give us a perspective on the options?
Thank you, Judy. Once again, my name is Steve King. I'm your City Public Works Director. Thank you for inviting me. I'm sad that the music stopped. Thought they were adding a nice soothing tone. I'm going to be speaking about 2 documents. One is related to growth projections in the community, and the other is related to the viability of alternatives on the project. Greg, could you hand out those to anybody who doesn't have those? They're in the back, and Greg's going to hand them out as well. I'm here for a variety of reasons, to speak and also to listen. And Greg Wood is our project coordinator, works for the city, and it's his responsibility to manage the relationship between the city and the Department of Transportation, which is a very fun job, as you can imagine. Quality of life is very important, and from the beginnings, as Lynn described with the Citizens Advisory Committee and the initial scoping meetings, that was loud and clear that Stevens Avenue should be the role model. I just want to be very clear. The City Public Works worked with the neighborhood, worked with Lynn, worked with Luann Crowley, worked with others, and we helped design Stevens Avenue. It was a group effort with citizens, neighbors interested, and City Public Works. So Stevens Avenue is city product. Reserve Street is the state product. They have Highway 93, they had other priorities, other design speeds for other purposes, and Reserve Street is a Department of Transportation project. I wanted to compare and contrast, because people say, we're building a Stevens Avenue, or building a Reserve Street. We're proposing to build a Stevens Avenue scale and character roadway. Size matters, width is important, but the character of the landscaping, lighting, the treatments, the amenities are, I think, the most important factor. And you can compare Stevens and Reserve are about the same width, and they're completely different characters. So I wanted to bring that to you. Back to Russell Street. Russell and South 3rd have significant problems. They're incomplete streets in all regards. They're incomplete for bicycle and pedestrian accommodations. There's not complete sidewalks, certainly no bike lanes. The bridge is pathetic. It was built in 1957. It was state-of-the-art then, but 50 years later, it's time to replace the two-lane bridge. It does not have Americans with disabilities or ADA accommodations to cross the bridge. It's basically an impassable structure for non-motorized transportation. The vehicular capacity, the traffic jams, we know that there's different experiences with moving up and down the corridor, but what I've heard, and what my experience is that it's extremely congested. Mile-long traffic jams, stop and go, bumper to bumper, is a common experience on Russell Street today. So obviously people could debate whether that's okay or not, but it was identified more than 12 years ago in our transportation plan as a deficiency for all of this, for bike ped, transit, and vehicles, that it is a problem child as far as our major street system. And I'd like to go through it and we'll do questions later. Thanks. There's also simultaneously an opportunity of federal aid. This is so big, we don't have money locally. We can't do an SID. I would hesitate to float a bond or try to even propose a general obligation bond for local taxes on this. But there is federal resources, tens of millions of dollars have been programmed for this project. Tens of millions of dollars coming back to the community is what's being planned of your federal tax dollars. It's your money that's probably debt we're borrowing from some other country, but it is money from outside town, but the money from outside, the money from the feds has very specific requirements. One of the basic requirements is that it meets some of the air quality conformity for our community. One of the federal guidelines for this type of community to receive federal funds is traffic jams and air quality or air pollution that comes from traffic jams needs to be mitigated with a transportation plan. So there is strings attached. Federal funding is not just because we want it or the feds are going to give it away. We've been working for 8 years to get federal approval on this project. If it was easy, we would have been done, years ago. It's not easy to get the feds to turn loose of several tens of millions of dollars of transportation money. But we're at that threshold now. There's growth in the community. Obviously, so there was some comment about growth, and we're looking inward toward growth. With the gas prices, with the concerns about infrastructure. If everybody could see this, this is the urban fringe development area, the UFTA project that the Office of Planning and Grants has been working on for most of a year. This is a part of a much bigger report, and I would encourage anybody who's interested in where the growth is planned for your community to look to the OPG website, look at the UFTA, drawings, and this is just one page out of it, so I just want to emphasize, this is a current draft recommendation. This has not been adopted, but it is simply, the way we're heading is growing inward. We've got infrastructure here, we've got sewer, we've got schools, we've got police and fire here in town, and the growth is planned in town. And so what are we talking about for numbers? A little bit hard because there's all these numbers, but if you can look under each area, reserved to Russell corridor, in that area there's kind of a gray line around that. Within that area, there's approximately 2,400 new homes, new housing units. Could be condos, apartments, or homes, but 2,400. In that area right now, there's currently 19 on the board, so 19 lots or 19 units were under development at that date. But the area has zoning for significantly more, 5,000, more than 5,000. So the zoning of those neighborhoods could accommodate up to more than 5,000. But the plan is for approximately 2,400. In the central area, north and south of the river, another 2,500, call it 2,600. And in the Brooks corridor, the Slant Street neighborhood where we are today, 2,154 new houses. That adds up to 7,000 new houses. And that's just these three areas of town. So significant growth is attempting to come here for a variety of reasons, as I said. This is not a guarantee that all this is going to happen. It's based on economics and the free market. But the idea is to invest in the core of the city. Put your money where you want, put infrastructure where you want people to come, and that's why the tens of millions of dollars of federal aid is proposed to come to the core of the city on Russell Street. This all goes into the traffic projections. So there's a lot of debate about traffic projections. How many cars, price of gas, modal shifts to bike, ped, and transit are good, maybe all good things. But the reality is that 7,000 new homes are going to bring significant additional traffic. That goes into traffic projections and models. It's part of our long-range transportation plan. The long-range transportation plan is used for this project. So there's transportation models were not developed for Russell and 30IS. Transportation models were developed for our community, the entire community long-range transportation plan. And I can tell you that from the last projections and with the UFTA project, there's actually more development planned for the core of community than were in the last traffic modeling projections. If anything, there's going to be more housing units in town than was in our last modeling analysis. So, thank you. So we look at all of this, we develop a scope, we worked with the neighborhoods I've been to this group many, many times, talking with a variety of people, developed a scope that had a 2-lane, a 3-lane, and a 4-lane alternatives, 4 lanes with raised medians and turning bays, and 4 lanes with roundabouts, 4 lanes with traffic signals. So those are all analyzed thoroughly. I think this is really an important letter or a memorandum from the State Department of Transportation. This is one of the key things, is well into the project, after we'd done this initial scoping in 2000, 2002, worked on the design, got that to the Department of Transportation in 2005, August 2005. This is what the head engineer for the Department of Transportation, Helen, said. I've received the Russell Corridor from technical operations standpoint, and I have concluded that a 2- and 3-lane alternative are not viable alternatives. As of that date, those were no longer eligible for federal funding because the state determined that they were not viable for the traffic projections. And there's a lot of technical support. There's literally reams of technical, but just in a nutshell, 2 and 3 lanes are not viable for the traffic projections for our community. It's simple as that. We also know that we can build a 4-lane system with signals that fit into a neighborhood. If you think Stevens Avenue fits in your neighborhood, I think it does. So there is an alternative related to a viable alternative that will be federally funded that can be neighborhood friendly. We realize not everybody's happy we wouldn't be here tonight. We also realize that we have a responsibility to act, to do something. And we've got a path to do it. And so we're really between a rock and a hard space. If a 2-lane system would work, it costs less, it's safer. Absolutely agree with that. And if the feds would fund it and if it would work, I'd be leading the charge. The Feds won't fund it. From my understanding, feds won't fund it. We asked the proponents of this two-lane alternative if they could get federal funding. I haven't heard that they have any federal funding for doing this. And so we are bringing forward a project for public comment next Wednesday. You're all invited, pro and con, good, bad, show up, speak up at the public hearing next Wednesday night. And that'll be part of how this project goes forward. And we really are working to move it forward because we realize that it's so vital for emergency services, for community growth, for air quality, and for grade separated trail crossings, miles of bike lanes, miles of sidewalks. It has something for everybody. It's truly a complete street, in my opinion. And that's why I'm here tonight. Mr. Wood is here. We'll probably get to some of his issues during the question and answer period. I thank you for being here. I appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
One is you keep talking about the hearing September 24th. It is September 24th. You don't need to have a sense of urgency in that the comment period is still open till October 20th. Written comments, you can email them. You can go to the city website and it gets you a link to NBT for submitting comments. We've already received many, and those submitted have equal weight as any given at the hearing. So just so you feel that there is time to, formulate your questions and get them in.
So next on the agenda, we have folks here from the 3+ for Russell Street. I'm not sure, John, are you supposed to?
Me to start, and then Bob's going to do some follow-up. Good evening. My name is John Wolverton. I live in the Franklin Ford neighborhood. I'm also on the leadership team over there. I'm also an active member in a local membership organization called Bike Walk Alliance for Missoula. I'm on their what we call the 3P committee. To tell you real quick who has been involved with the 3+, we're talking about 3+ for Russell Street, which is a design concept where citizens have come together to look at how we can do this corridor and this roadway in a more community-friendly way. And the groups that have been highly engaged in this process consist of Bike Walk Alliance for Missoula, Missoula Institute for Sustainable Transportation, MAST, which is Missoula Advocates for Sustainable Transportation. Also, ASUM Office of Transportation has been involved, and Montana Transit Information Systems. And additionally, there's been quite a few of my fellow neighbors and your fellow neighbors that have been engaged with this and helping us with advocacy and outreach to the public to the extent that every individual person has been able to. We've had some really great people come together and put their energy into this and do what they can to help us talk to the public about this and get people aware that there's other ways of doing things. I wanted to read this verbatim first about, basically it's sort of like part of what our concept is for 3+ for Russell. And it's 3 auto travel lanes combined with bicycle lanes, sidewalks, and green boulevards. In addition, several sections would employ 4 lanes to better serve commercial and redevelopment areas. One short segment would continue to have 2 auto travel lanes plus bike lanes and sidewalks, and that's the area from 7th to 11th where there's not a lot of existing right-of-way. This would be a great way to keep traffic calm in the heart of the corridor and preserve our neighborhoods. Other components of what 3+ for Russell Street does is it could gel with getting a new bridge, and we're very much in support of getting a new bridge built and saying thank you to Senator Baucus for getting the funding for us to get that done, because that really needs to be done for any number of reasons, but particularly so emergency vehicles can get across the river when it's necessary. Our design, from lots of different people coming together and talking about what is the right thing for the community, listening to those voices from the past that Lynn talked about, the present, and also, in addition, listening to what people are saying in the Envision Missoula process, which is the long-range transportation plan process, and putting that all together and creating a design that reflects those type of community values. The 3+ for Russell Street citizen design would not knock down any homes or businesses, is we want to show everybody that it's possible to do an enhanced, improved roadway with the bike lanes and the sidewalks and the capacity for the motor vehicles that stays within, or as close to possible within the existing road right-of-way, and doesn't have to knock down any homes or businesses. The preferred alternative that the agencies are putting out right now, they say that it's going to knock down 11 homes and 10 businesses. Already, by looking that, we know that it actually means there's quite a few more actual homes that are going to go down. So like 3 out of those 11 homes that I know of are actually duplexes or 2 homes on one lot. So we're already up to 14. There's a potential for a roadway being constructed back behind Trailer City, up close to River Road, and it really looks like that might have to take out some mobile homes. So for some reason, they're not being counted as an impact. So it actually looks like it might impact more like 15, 16, 17, 18 families. We also, there's also potential by staying in the right-of-way for saving the mature trees. Lynn showed that poster board that shows Hart Park, which has some really beautiful trees on it, and there's other places along the corridor that have really great trees. As Steve even pointed out, that a two-lane roadway or 2 lanes with center medians is much safer than a broader roadway. It would save money by not having to relocate utilities or not having to relocate them so profoundly. And just about the safety issue for pedestrians is the battle that was already fought over West Broadway. It was, let's change the configuration of the motor vehicle lanes on Broadway to make it safer for pedestrians and handicapped people to cross. And why do we want to go to a larger upscale roadway through the middle of our neighborhoods and then have those type of problems that we've already seen on other roadways? And also, we're proposing to provide for a much better vision for transit opportunities, meaning let's get the buses running up and down the corridor all the way. Let's make sure that there's bus stops that the bus doesn't just turn off at 5th Street where it does now. Let's provide park and rides. Let's talk about some other ideas like using flex time, talking to the big employers to see if they can shift their hours a little bit so not everybody hammers all the roadways all at the same time in the afternoon. Basically, what we think is that provide a built environment where our neighbors and our community have transportation options, that they have the choice to move around in some other way and not feel like, oh, it's not safe, so I have to get in my motor vehicle to protect myself from the other motor vehicles. So why did we do 3+ for Russell Street? Why did the advocates come together and some of the neighborhood people? It was because of some of the frustration that you've heard from some of the people in the Rose Park Transportation Committee that have a really great history with this stuff, and just in general listening to the community. Basically, like I said, we listen to the voices from the past and what we hear now, and what the Envision Missoula process is saying is that people want to be able to move around in different ways that are healthier. From my personal point of view, I wanted to just speak a little bit what brought me here today was initially I knew what was going on with the project, and they were talking about roundabouts, and it was going to be a wide roadway. And I bicycle a lot, and I was concerned about the crossings at the trails, and I was paying attention to that. They want to put in grade-separated crossings at the Bitterroot Branch Trail, Milwaukee Road, and underneath the river bridge on both sides of the river. And I thought, well, that's great. But then as I started to move myself around the neighborhood more on my bicycle, I discovered that I really didn't want to have to pedal all the way down to the trails to cross Russell Street. I want to be able to safely cross, anywhere that is reasonably feasible. And then as of sometime last year, the preferred alternative that they were trying to work it out so it would include roundabouts was changed, where they basically said, well, because of these 4F historic and cultural resources, well, we can't do roundabouts now. We're going to have to use signalized intersections. So what that basically means is that it went back to being a business as usual roadway. And then I started taken a lot broader look at transportation issues in general and not just what I felt like I needed to get from my neighborhood to your neighborhood. So started asking more questions, and what I found out about was what I posted on the wall over here, which is a photocopy of the preferred alternative the agencies have come up with for Russell and 3rd Street intersection. And I encourage you to come and take a look at this when you get a chance. It's very, very large. It rivals anything else we have in this community. This double left turn lane pockets actually at one of the legs, which I've tried to, the only place I can think of that has double left turn lane is 93 turning north onto Reserve. There's probably a couple others here and there. So it rivals any, these big, large intersections in other parts of the city. And I don't think that's particularly healthy concept for basically what is the core of our city and in between our neighborhoods. And then I think maybe Bob's going to talk about this too, but this is, does anybody know, they talk about using Stevens as a model for what people have said they want on Russell Street, but I don't know of any intersection like that on Stevens. And another thing to always keep in mind is that when they built Stevens, they did not knock down any homes. So Bob's going to come up now and talk about a few more of the technical details.
My name is Bob Giordano, direct Missoula Institute for Sustainable Transportation. I've run free cycles for about 12 years now. I live up in the Rattlesnake. I've probably come to this neighborhood council maybe 5 or 6 times over the last 6-7 years. The most recent issue is the Higgins Hill Beckwith Roundabout. I think everyone's covered all the issues really well. I'm going to just touch on a few other things here. I think it's really important. The Public Works talks, and the state talks about the Stevens model, and that intersection has 24 lanes if you add up all the legs. And there isn't something like that on Stevens. Our large signalized intersections, they tend to break down for safety and capacity. Every lane you add, you don't get that same amount of capacity when you have the turning movements overlapping. And our severe injury crashes in this town are usually at the large signalized intersections. The last death, unfortunately, about 2 weeks ago, Reserve and South. But I also think Public Works in the state has done a good job with the EIS. They are given a set of parameters that is these old models that project out based on the past, open the formulas and say this is what we have to have for this community. So I think this community is a little bit different than the models. And it's being shown. Envision Missoula. Everyone has said repeatedly, more biking, walking, transit facilities, safe driving, and that can all happen. And the 3+ model is a good way to do that. I count traffic a lot. You might see me out there with my notebook. I'm counting traffic or my ruler in the lanes. Just be a little slow and cautious. I'm out measuring. I'm doing that same data collection Joe does. The last rush hour traffic I counted was about 2,100 cars in rush hour, 4:30 to 5:30, entering Russell and 3rd. A single lane roundabout around the tops is about 2,500 cars in an hour. So we can have some more capacity, but as John mentioned, there's ways to spread the traffic out a little bit. There's ways for people to use different modes. In the Envision Missoula process, a random phone survey, a list of solutions citizens had to choose from, number 22 was widen existing roads. Much higher on the list was provide more walking facilities. Higher on the list was more biking facilities, and higher was more transit facilities. So what we learn in this community and every other community is what we build matters. What we build affects how we act as neighbors to each other. It affects the choices we make when we move around. I like that analogy of the flashing yellow. That's kind of what a roundabout is. It's everyone slow down, and it's a slow, smooth flow that the travel time actually decreases. I don't think this community will be able to really embrace roundabouts until after Higgins Hill Beckwith gets built next June. That's the current deadline. It moves. And That'll be a single lane roundabout, and we'll be able to see how that works. Another thing I'd like to bring up is, while the federal government may pay this $40 million to build this facility, who's going to maintain it? We just saw property taxes go up. Most of the funding for maintenance falls back on us. It's a big investment. It's a big maintenance investment. That's something to think about. It's all of our money. It's not just, let's see how much we can get from the federal dollar. Now, another interesting point is we are going to have more growth in this community. But there's also a point where you can have more growth and less driving. When you reach certain densities in certain places, transit works better. Smaller businesses come in, and you can walk to the neighborhood grocery. We cannot just say more growth, more driving, bigger roads. Different places are going to develop, and we all have to put our heads into how are we going to develop our land. Land use and transportation are linked. Everyone's realizing that, and that's a great thing. I guess that's all I want to say, and that I appreciate Steve's saying that if the feds would fund this, a 3 or a 2 or a blended option, that he would help lead the charge. So that's our challenge, is to talk to federal highways. All of us talk to the state, talk to feds, instead of a process where next week we're going to get up there and say our piece and there'll be a public hearing, then the document comes out 8 months later. Let's keep conversations rolling and figure out what to do. And I would urge, in the meantime, let's put energy behind this 3+ proposal and have that as a starting point and figure out how to go from there. Thank you.
So now we come to the heart of this meeting. All of this was to prepare you for the possibility, as our neighborhood council, to endorse a resolution. So I have a copy of the resolution here, which was brought to us by the transportation team. I'm going to just, maybe we can put a couple of these on each table. Can you maybe help me do that, John? And what I'm just going to suggest we do, hopefully this can work, is I'd like you to take a chance to take a look at it. Basically what it's saying is that this neighborhood council is asking its leadership team first to basically support adoption of an alternative for reconstructing Russell Street using the citizens plan. So there's a request to the neighborhood council as the first request, directing the leadership team to take action by writing letters to the mayor, city council representatives, and other officials, and encouraging individual members to join in supporting this alternative. So really what we want to do with the rest of this meeting is ask you all, what do you need to know before you're ready to vote on this? Because this is, our bylaws say that we can make these decisions. I brought a copy of the bylaws in case we had to get into that discussion. And we need to, as much as possible, agree, of course. But if we can't all agree, we can still make a decision with 60% of the folks here in voting. Now, some of you probably aren't in our neighborhood council, so we can't help you. But we're going to make you an offer, which is we will count you as the other folks that were here. So we'll take 2 votes. So we'll ask our neighborhood council folks to vote, and then we'll ask other folks who are here to vote as well. Just so that everybody gets a chance to feel like they were participating. So in some ways, the way we'd like to do the discussion now and question and answer is more information you need to be able to say yes or no to this resolution. So not so much advocacy statements, although I know a lot of us have strong opinions about this, but more, is there anything else you need to know or a question that really, from your mind, needs to be answered before you could vote on this?
I have one.
Okay, just a second. And then once we do that, and we really will take somewhat limited time on that, I'm going to come back to a straw poll. Since I'm facilitating, I'm going to say, okay, where are we? How many folks are ready to say? And we'll do a straw poll. But first we'll do this question of what else do you need to know to be able to vote on this? Okay.
Okay. My question is to Steve. Is there any other project in the state of Montana that the feds have funded that was a community alternative such as this? I mean, is this are there other communities that went through this process and had a positive result? Or are we just banging our heads?
I can't speak for the entire state, but certainly I speak for this project. And to my knowledge, the feds wouldn't fund it here, and I can't imagine what would be different in Billings or Great Falls or Bozeman. So I don't know that there would be any location where if a group of citizens came and proposed something that wasn't identified as a viable alternative in the National Environmental Policy Act, this EIS process that we go through. If somebody came up with something that was not in the EIS as a viable alternative, I don't know how the feds could fund it. And so even though I can't speak for the entire state, my experience is that it probably would not be funded.
But nothing has happened in the state in the past.
In my experience and to my knowledge, no. Never this type of, I'd hesitate to say, in my knowledge, no, it would not be funded, either here or any other community in Montana.
Okay, Bob, are you addressing this question?
Yes. There is an example, I believe, and it's right in our own community. It's Arthur Fifth Sixth. A 5-lane was proposed for the north end of Arthur Avenue. Overwhelmingly public opposition to that plan. And the feds and the state were about to say, okay, we're not going to do anything. And now behind the scenes, sort of, the city and the university and the neighborhoods, they're working things out. They're saying, what can we bring forward? And it looks like a compromise is going to come out of that. So that was an environmental assessment. It wasn't the full-blown environmental impact statement, but there was a little bit of precedent that we could do something different.
If I may correct.
Yeah, and let me just say, we'll go back and forth a little bit on this, but we don't want to spend all our time on just this one. We obviously are just going to have different opinions.
This is very important. This gets to the core of building something. To me, what it's all about is building something. Mr. Giordano, what he's stating is completely incorrect. There was an environmental assessment on 5th, 6th Arthur Madison. There was a public hearing, and what's coming out of that is a federal no-fund, a no-build alternative, no action on the environmental assessment for 5th, 6th Arthur Madison. What's evolved on that is a much smaller project that doesn't have any of the features that may be locally funded, primarily by the university, and to some extent in partnership with the city. In other words, a local project. So in that case, the federal conclusion was no federal money, and if the locals want it, the locals can do it. I don't think the locals could do Russell Street.
Okay, let me just say this. I'd like to now move a little bit from there. Are there other people in the neighborhood who have some information they would like to have? Yes?
Well, I just have another question.
Yeah, fine.
I've heard talk of the bridge and Senator Baucus getting the funding for the bridge. Is that a project and then the street is a separate project?
No, it's one, the type.
So.
It's a funding source for this project.
For the whole thing?
It's an earmark for the bridge. But the bridge in this project, this environmental impact statement, cover from Broadway across that bridge, including that bridge, and further.
And follow, the earmark was done, I believe, in 2003 or 2004, and it's been waiting on the conclusion of the project environmental impact statement to access that federal earmark.
So that bridge can't be built unless this whole corridor is done?
No, we said
that's really my question.
Bridge can't be built with federal money until the environmental impact statement is completed.
Can they revise the statement and just include the bridge up to like 3rd Street? I mean.
Oh yeah, we can just speak to phasing.
Well, one is in here, it's in the document. We've talked about phasing because when this is finalized, the things that we need to move forward is a record of decision, federal agent saying, yes, this passes legal sufficiency, and we can move forward. And through the MPO and the Long Range Transportation Project, we have to have a fiscally constrained project. And to do that, we've realized that we need to identify phases of it. And the first phase would be, from Broadway to 3rd. It's also been identified and recognized that 3rd Street, we may have to do that as a local project. And there is verbiage in here that when you talk about the projections and all these mode shifts that may or may not take place or may or may not be happening as we speak, you know, by the time we get to third, we recognize a significant amount of time will have passed. And at that time, if we need to revisit numbers because they are happening or they clearly aren't happening, you know, we've left at least and lobbied as the city to get verbiage in there to allow us to do that.
So the city doesn't have to buy that whole package right now in order to get the money flowing, right?
The decision has to be on the whole package, but there's some latitude created within the document that we go forward. I mean, this document will include the whole project. When there's a record of decision, it will be, you know, it's not breaking it out of this document as small pieces, but we have put verbiage in there to accommodate what we recognize.
Why is it that you cannot do the bridge now?
Because it's part of this, it's the same reason we couldn't do Third Street. If you remember, not too long ago, we attempted to get RFP out for proposals, and we were told we cannot even put a pen to the paper and start design on that until this document is completed, because if we did, and their response is that if we do something on the bridge, it's predetermining what the outcome of this will be. And so we gotta wait till this, in other words, you're setting up, you know, to me, it's, I don't know whether you can say that clearer, but, you know, we can't, you know, we've talked about, we've been asked, can we put sidewalks in, can't we do something? And it's predetermining, you know, parameters that are currently under, you know, review of the entire environmental impacts.
So I want to remind us what the resolution says.
Yeah.
Because we probably are not going to address the actual detail that we're getting into right now with this resolution. So if you would look at the resolution again, basically what it's saying is that they're asking for our neighborhood council to go on the record supporting, looking at the alternative, asking the leadership team to say that we are interested in it, that we will write some letters saying we're interested in it, and that we will urge our membership to get involved in it. I personally, just again, as the moderator, I'll make a comment here, which is that I don't think we can solve that question with this resolution. So I want to, in some ways, weigh that, put that out of order right now, and say, if there's anything else that people want to do, and then I'm going to take a straw poll on it. But I appreciate it. I mean, there's obviously an issue here.
Which alternative was it though? I forget, just so you know.
Excuse me? Diana?
Excuse me, I just wanted to ask, because it seems like we're hearing different numbers for the number of homes being affected, and businesses, and I wanted to get a clear idea from Steve and Greg of what you foresee for the number of homes affected.
There's a summary sheet in the environmental impact statement. Greg is looking at table 4-2, doesn't that have?
Yeah, 4-4.2 says detailed right-of-way impacts on residential properties for the preliminary preferred alternatives, 11 on Russell, 3 on Third, for a total of 14. Right, that's the full acquisitions.
And then there's...
Then they categorize other ones that it comes within, you know, 5 feet and 10 to 15, and, you know, so you'd have to look at there is a chart on that.
Yeah, this is page 4-6 in the EIS. Also, what the EIS is intended to look at is the widest footprint of impact. It could be less than that, it can't be significantly more than that, as it might change additional impact, in other words, take more properties. So it could be less than this, it should not be more than this.
Yeah, and there's, for example, if there were significant comments to reduce the boulevard and pull the sidewalks closer to the street, it would significantly lessen some of that right away. You know, and save some of it there.
Okay, so I'm actually going to now stop our conversation for a minute.
But I want, because there's another piece of the DIS that speaks to more houses.
I know you, but you mentioned
I
that.
tried to mention that, but maybe I wasn't clear.
Did you not hear what Lynn said originally about the noise?
Certainty in the noise.
Yeah, see, that's what I wanted, I guess, to see if there was any comment that you guys had.
Are you talking just one side?
Yeah, it's at 4,
That's
4.8 noise impacts on
How much of the
page
impacts are on the
23.
east side?
It says, in an additional 12 receptor locations representing 13 single-family residences may also be removed due to right-of-way acquisition for the proposed project.
I think that's talking about the same 13 or 14.
It says additional, so.
I think that's coincidental, it's the same number.
Yeah, but if you.
No.
if you
What
look at-
page are you on? What page?
On page 23, and I also went and looked at as the volumes increased and you reached the 66 decibel level, that more houses were going to be acquired. If there's a chart in there that says there's more houses to be acquired.
That would be on the west side.
With the
Yes.
noise, there might be some, we need to get some clarification, because the noise impacts of acoustics, why there would be acquisitions related to noise. In addition to, there is acquisitions, but acquisitions specifically related to noise doesn't make sense.
Well, it's in here.
It keeps talking about 12 out of 56 receptors representing the 13 that may also be removed.
Okay, well then give us some time to, because we'll be at the public hearing, I expect we'll see you next Wednesday.
Yes, you will.
Okay, so let me just say again, what I'd like to do is ask you to draw attention to the resolution, because we want some time at the end of the meeting, because there's some things in the back for people if they're interested in expressing their opinion. There's some things that we brought. So I want to see if we can move this. We want to see if people can agree to this resolution. Again, just reminding you, take a look. I don't want you to vote on something that you haven't thought about, but your director and leadership team, who you've met tonight, basically to take action by writing letters to the mayor, city council, and other public officials in support of this alternative idea, and encourage individual members to join in supporting an alternative. That's the resolution. How many of you live in this neighborhood council? And does anybody need to know what that means? Do you know the boundaries?
What are the boundaries, quickly?
This side of Russell, south a little bit.
East side,
Higgins,
Russell,
East side of Russell?
6th Street, 6th Street, Higgins.
Yeah, it would be the east side of Russell.
South Avenue, Higgins, 6th Street.
Okay, I guess I'm in this area. I live on the east side of Russell.
Yeah, that would work.
East six.
Okay, so what I want to do is ask the folks who are actually residents in this neighborhood council area to vote. And we'll do that right now. And then I'll ask the people who don't live in the area afterwards if they can vote.
My neighbor and I are really 2 blocks away.
Sorry. You're in tier 2? There's a long story about how these boundaries get set up. Don't start us on that. So I'm going to ask other leadership team people to help me count this.
Just a minute to look, I have to read it without hearing stuff going on.
Okay. There's a moment of silence for that. We'll get ourselves lined up. Can you count like this half? And Nancy, would you count like that half?
Yeah.
When we get ready? Someone asked for clarification on the intention. So the people that did this resolution, it is for working to support the 3 pluses in that. But that kind of alternative. Okay. Okay, that's ready?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So I'd like folks who can vote to support the resolution to raise their hand. We'll just do a tally. Diana's counting this side and Nancy's counting that side. Are we good?
Yes.
Okay. Folks who can't support the resolution? Well, I think it's easy then. But let's go ahead and tally the number of pros. And then folks who don't live in the neighborhood but would like to support the resolution? Okay, we need to count again. Are we good? And outside the neighborhood that don't support it?
Can I vote you?
You can vote. Absolutely.
The rest of it is a category for county residents.
It's out of the neighborhood, we're just out of the neighborhood, we're not getting into it. Okay, now the last step for those of you who supported this resolution, you have directed us as the leadership team to do some things, but you've also directed yourselves. Because you're saying that we would encourage individual members to join in supporting this alternative. So, in the back, there is some material for you if you are interested in actually preparing to do something around the EIS, making your comments known. There's some material in the back. There's also, if you don't have time to go to that, but you'd like to just do a postcard or something, there's also that in the back. So, Lynn is going to be at a table by the door that has both a sheet preparing you for the EIS and a postcard. And the 3+ folks are over on the longer table, I think maybe having a petition, is that right?
Yep.
Okay. You'll notice that we're set up so you can't leave unless you pass by your opportunities. You don't have to. You don't absolutely have to do it, but we would encourage your interest. So, just to close off, we still have a general meeting for the Rose Park neighborhood. This wasn't our general meeting, this was our special meeting. And thank you very much for coming, and thanks to everyone who gave the presentations. I think we got a lot of good information in there this morning.
Right on time.
Thank you.
broad, and then, you can narrow it down through your goals and objectives, and, but our meeting today, George Vitas was there, and the upshot was, yes, we could fold it in there.
It was, and we had a lot of input from professionals in the museum field, and they all felt that this would be the way to do it, that it would be flexible enough that history, if we, for example, could not put a powerhouse exhibit within the park boundaries, that could still be a part of that, even though we're not on that particular site. And it just seemed for fundraising purposes to have one focused identity, it would benefit everyone. So I think that concern has gone away.
Okay, well, I just wanted to make sure. The county attorney said, while developing the overall fundraising plan, he encouraged us to take a broad scope approach to the project and focus on first things first, and not say, this is for the park and it's not for something else, but rather, so I just wanted to make sure I wasn't remembering the meeting last time wrong, and so even though this language is very specific to the park, it could be broadened or adapted to accommodate what Judy's talking about. So that whoever, if you're thinking about people who contribute money as friends or to a foundation, it might be useful for them to understand the breadth of the thing. So,
Jimmy George did quote, provide educational opportunities and facilities that allow people of all ages to learn about the history of the area and redevelopment efforts
yeah.
as part of.
And so as long as you guys are comfortable that that's in, because that's one of the things that you were going to try to work out with your committee. Okay. All right.
We had a complete consensus.
Okay.
That's good.
Ellen?
So given that, does the language of the resolution need to be broadened a little bit? I mean, it seems pretty geographic to me. I mean, if you're talking about the possibility